Coffee Break German Season 2, Episode 34. Hallo und ganz herzlich willkommen zu Coffee Break German. Ich bin Marc.
Und ich bin Andrea.
Wie geht's dir, Andrea?
Mir geht's super, danke. Und dir?
Ja, mir geht's gut, danke. We're back with another episode. This is episode 4 of our soap opera, our radio play, but of course episode 34 of Coffee Break German Season 2. And in these final 10 episodes of this season, we are following the story of our Wohngemeinschaft in Munich. Where we're following the story of Carola and Philip and Miriam and Hannah and the other people who are involved in this story. So, as usual, we're going to be listening to the text, the dialogue for this week's lesson, and something interesting has happened this week, something important that they've got to deal with. But of course, we'll be listening to that text and then talking about the language involved, and you can follow along and improve your German. Das klingt gut?
Ja, das klingt doch super, oder? Bist du bereit?
Ich bin bereit.
Gut, los geht's.
Let's begin then by listening to the entire episode of our soap opera, and then we'll split it up and talk about the language contained in each section.
Hey, Miriam und Philipp, wir haben einen Brief bekommen, eingeschrieben. An die Mieter und Mieterinnen der Burgstraße 15, Wohnung 1C.
Hört sich sehr ernst an.
Auweia, ich kann mir gar nicht vorstellen, wer uns sowas schickt.
Vielleicht die Hausverwaltung.
Na mach schon auf, ich bin gespannt wie ein Flitzebogen.
Also, ich lese vor. Sehr geehrte Bewohner und Bewohnerinnen der Wohnung 1C in der Burgstraße 15. Es wurde uns gemeldet, dass letzten Freitagabend aus Ihrer Wohnung laute Musik und Gelächter zu hören waren. Dies nach 22 Uhr, also während der Nachtruhe. Wir möchten Sie an die Hausregeln erinnern, die jeglichen Lärm zwischen 22 Uhr und 8 Uhr morgens verbieten und bitten Sie darum, in Zukunft laute Musik und Gespräche sowie den Gebrauch von Toilettenspülung, Dusche, Waschmaschine oder Trockner zu unterlassen. Außerdem möchten wir Sie darauf hinweisen, dass der Müll nicht im Treppenhaus abgestellt werden darf, sondern bitte direkt in die jeweiligen Müllcontainer vor dem Haus entsorgt werden sollte. Bei Fragen wenden Sie sich bitte an unser Büro. Mit freundlichen Grüßen, F. Müller, Hausverwaltung.
Was ist denn das? Nachtruhe? Keine Waschmaschine?
Ja, ich finde das eigentlich ganz vernünftig. In der Schweiz ist das auch so.
Oh Mann, ich frage mich, wer sich über uns beschwert hat. Die hätten ja einfach klingeln können. So laut waren wir doch auch nicht, oder?
Also, als ich noch in Schottland wohnte, haben wir die ganze Nacht Party gemacht. Und das hat niemanden gestört.
Naja, jetzt ist es so. Das nächste Mal können wir ja im Pub feiern, oder?
Ja, du hast schon recht.
Müssen wir jetzt eine Antwort schreiben auf den Brief?
Nö, eigentlich nicht.
Also, ich finde schon. Wir könnten ja schreiben, dass es uns leid tut und das natürlich nicht mehr vorkommt. Und für die Nachbarn vielleicht ein kleines Kärtchen, um uns zu entschuldigen.
Echt jetzt?
Das finde ich extrem.
Wieso? Das zeigt guten Willen. Wir wollen ja mit den Nachbarn keinen Streit.
Na, also ich mach das nicht, aber wenn du das tun willst, kannst du ja.
Okay, du schreibst die Kärtchen, ich unterschreibe.
Super. Ihr werdet sehen, die Nachbarn werden sich sicher freuen und die Verwaltung wird nicht mehr sauer sein. Also, ich schreibe. Liebe Frau Müller, vielen Dank für Ihren Brief. Wir möchten uns für den Lärm entschuldigen und versichern, dass dies nicht mehr vorkommen wird. Natürlich werden wir uns auch darum kümmern, dass der Müll in Zukunft direkt zur Mülltonne gebracht und nicht im Treppenhaus gelagert wird. Mit freundlichen Grüßen, Carola, Philipp und Miriam.
Okay, so another episode with lots of interesting German, especially in that letter that they received and indeed the letter that Carola wrote. But we need to go through this in more detail, Andrea, don't we?
Genau, ja.
So let's split it up. We'll listen to the first part before Carola starts to read the letter.
Genau. Hey Miriam und Philipp, wir haben einen Brief bekommen, eingeschrieben, an die Mieter und Mieterinnen der Burgstraße 15, Wohnung 1C.
Hört sich sehr ernst an.
Auweia, ich kann mir gar nicht vorstellen, wer uns sowas schickt.
Vielleicht die Hausverwaltung.
Na mach schon auf, ich bin gespannt wie ein Flitzebogen.
Ein Flitzebogen, an interesting word there. You can explain that in just a moment.
Ja.
Okay, so here what we've got is Carola explaining that they've received a letter. Wir haben einen Brief bekommen.
Yes, and we know it's a very serious letter. It's a very important letter because it came eingeschrieben. Do you know what eingeschrieben is?
It's something to do with writing, I think.
Yes.
Schreiben.
Yes.
Schreiben.
It means that it's registered.
Right, okay.
So that it can be tracked and that the sender knows that it has arrived because someone signed for it.
I understand. Okay, so it's a signed for letter.
Yes.
And it's to the people who are renting the flat in Burgstraße 15, yeah?
Genau.
And Philip said that it sounds a little serious.
Yes. And Miriam wonders who sent something like this. Ich kann mir gar nicht vorstellen, I can't imagine, wer uns sowas schickt. Who sends something like this to us?
To us, yeah, okay. It's quite tricky word order there.
Yes.
Wer uns sowas schickt.
Yes, it's an indirect question.
Right, of course, yeah.
So wer schickt uns sowas? Ich kann mir nicht vorstellen oder ich weiß nicht. Ja, ich weiß nicht, wer uns sowas schickt. Oder ich kann mir gar nicht vorstellen. I can't imagine at all.
Gar nicht, yeah.
Wer uns sowas schickt.
But Carola explains who has written the letter.
Yeah, Carola obviously seems to have experience with this sort of letter.
Yeah.
So she thinks vielleicht die Hausverwaltung. Maybe it is. What is the Hausverwaltung?
Is it the landlords?
No, it's the organization that basically looks after the building and makes sure everything is functioning and in order and everybody behaves appropriately. So it's an organization that is hired by the landlord.
Right. Okay. I'm trying to think if we've got an English word for that.
It's maybe something like the factors.
The factors, yeah, that's the word I was trying to think of in my head, but I couldn't think of it there.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Well, I think they want to find out what's inside because it's Miriam who says that she's gespannt wie ein Flitzebogen.
Yes. So, do you know the word spannend?
It's is that exciting or?
It means that that you, it is exciting, but you want to know what's happening next.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So something is spannend, and if I'm in a situation where I find something spannend, then I am gespannt.
Would that be something like to be on tenterhooks?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so she's on tenterhooks, but this wie ein Flitzebogen.
Yes, so ein Flitzebogen is a bow like Robin Hood would maybe use.
Right.
So it's a stick with a string.
Yeah, okay.
And obviously that has a lot of tension.
Right, when you're
and
doing
gespannt
it back.
Also means gespannt is actually a metaphor, and it means that there's a lot of tension on it.
I see. So is it a phrase in itself? Ich bin gespannt
wie ein Flitzebogen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she is she's on tenterhooks.
Yes.
Desperate to know what what the letter contains. Well, let's listen to what the letter does contain.
Aha. Also, ich lese vor. Sehr geehrte Bewohner und Bewohnerinnen der Wohnung 1C in der Burgstraße 15. Es wurde uns gemeldet, dass letzten Freitagabend aus Ihrer Wohnung laute Musik und Gelächter zu hören waren. Dies nach 22 Uhr, also während der Nachtruhe. Wir möchten Sie an die Hausregeln erinnern, die jeglichen Lärm zwischen 22 Uhr und 8 Uhr morgens verbieten und bitten Sie darum, in Zukunft laute Musik und Gespräche sowie den Gebrauch von Toilettenspülung, Dusche, Waschmaschine oder Trockner zu unterlassen. Außerdem möchten wir Sie darauf hinweisen, dass der Müll nicht im Treppenhaus abgestellt werden darf, sondern bitte direkt in die jeweiligen Müllcontainer vor dem Haus entsorgt werden sollte. Bei Fragen wenden Sie sich bitte an unser Büro. Mit freundlichen Grüßen, F. Müller, Hausverwaltung.
Wow, it sounds like quite a stern letter indeed.
Yes, it's pretty standard for this type of situation.
Okay, can you perhaps give a summary of it?
Yes, so it's the Hausverwaltung, as Carola assumed, and they're making a complaint about noise.
Yeah, I picked up when this happened. I think there was a particular mention of Friday evening, Freitagabend, yeah?
So Friday evening, there was a lot of noise, music and laughing in particular.
How awful.
And this happened after 10 o'clock in the evening.
Right.
Now, 10 o'clock in the evening is where in most German-speaking places the Nachtruhe starts.
Right, so that's the nighttime quietness,
yes,
yeah?
Nachtruhe is really quite a serious concept, and it is explained in this letter also that there is really no noise allowed after 10 o'clock, so certainly no loud laughing, talking and music, but also, and it says this here in the letter, no flushing the toilet, no shower or bath, washing machine or tumble dryer.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And this is not a lie, okay? And it's not made up. This is...
That's what it really is.
It is what it's like. And people do complain if their neighbors don't adhere to these rules.
Okay. What about people who perhaps live in the centre of town and they're right next door to a club or a pub or something like that?
Yes. So... Obviously, in the club, they can have music for as long as they have a license for. But then as soon as people leave the club, they should be quiet.
Right.
And if they're not, the people living in the area have every right to phone the police. But, I mean, the reality is someone who lives in the town centre probably doesn't have such an issue with noise after 10 o'clock.
Okay, they've kind of got an expectation that they'll hear some.
Yes.
But there was also another problem that the Hausverwaltung pointed out, and that was something to do with Müll, wasn't it?
Yes. So some people have the habit of leaving their bin bag in the staircase. Yeah. Maybe for an hour, maybe overnight. Yes. Just so the next time when they go downstairs, they can pick it up and then put it in the container. But this is also against the house rules.
Okay.
And really, our tenants should know this if they had read the house rules.
Tisk, tisk, yeah.
Yeah. So they should either have their Müll in their own flat or take it directly to the
bins.
Container.
Okay. Right. So that is our letter. And we now have quite an interesting situation because there's a difference perhaps in the way in which our different characters approach the next part. But we're going to find out about this after our break.
Wir unterbrechen diese Sendung für eine sehr wichtige Meldung. If you'd like to make faster progress with your German, don't forget that you can use the premium version of this course, which features video versions of the lessons, comprehensive lesson notes, and bonus listening materials. Also, worauf wartest du? What are you waiting for? If you'd like to take your German to the next level, go to coffeebreakgermanplus.com.
Okay, so we are following our fourth episode of our Wohngemeinschaft soap opera. And of course, our friends have received a letter from the Hausverwaltung with some, a telling off, basically, haven't they?
Yes.
Let's listen to the next part where Philip, Miriam and Carola discuss their reaction to this letter. Was ist denn das? Nachtruhe? keine Waschmaschine?
Ja, ich finde das eigentlich ganz vernünftig. In der Schweiz ist das auch so.
Oh Mann, ich frage mich, wer sich über uns beschwert hat. Die hätten ja einfach klingeln können. So laut waren wir doch auch nicht, oder?
Also als ich noch in Schottland wohnte, haben wir die ganze Nacht Party gemacht und das hat niemanden gestört.
Naja, jetzt ist es so. Das nächste Mal können wir ja im Pub feiern, oder?
Ja, du hast schon recht.
Müssen wir jetzt eine Antwort schreiben auf den Brief?
Nö, eigentlich nicht.
Also, ich finde schon. Wir könnten ja schreiben, dass es uns leid tut und das natürlich nicht mehr vorkommt. Und für die Nachbarn vielleicht ein kleines Kärtchen, um uns zu entschuldigen.
Okay, so we're starting to see slightly different reactions to this letter and indeed to the way in which they're going to respond.
Yes, it is surprising that Philip has not come across these things like Nachtruhe and the fact that it involves not washing the clothes, etc. Because from his German, we can think that he has lived in German-speaking countries for quite some time.
Okay.
Carola, on the other hand, being Swiss, she's very familiar with this and she thinks it's eigentlich ganz vernünftig.
Vernünftig.
Reasonable. It comes from the word Vernunft, reason.
Okay.
Ja.
She says, in der Schweiz ist das auch so.
Genau.
It's like that in Switzerland too.
And Miriam, she knows these concepts, but she's more concerned with who made a complaint, ja?
Okay.
Oh Mann, ich frage mich, wer sich über uns beschwert hat. Who has made this complaint about us, ja?
Yeah.
And she thinks that they could have come and rang the doorbell and talked to them instead of making a complaint.
Yeah. She actually says something that's quite complicated from a grammatical point of view. She says, die hätten ja einfach klingeln können.
Genau. So this is a structure our listeners can look forward to in future episodes of Coffee Break German.
Mhm.
Die hätten ja einfach klingeln können. They could have rung the doorbell.
Right.
Yeah.
So conditional perfect.
Indeed.
Wow.
Yes.
Die hätten ja einfach klingeln können. It's tricky, and I don't know whether we really want to go into much detail.
I think it's really something our listeners can look forward to, maybe in a new season of Coffee Break German.
Okay.
It's really interesting, and once you get the hang of it, it'll be fine.
Good. Okay. Well, we'll look forward to that. But in the meantime, we'll just think of it. They could have at least rung the doorbell.
Yes.
Okay. So Philip, he explains that things in Scotland are not quite the same.
Yeah, is that right, Mark?
Yeah, I mean,
Don't you have Nachtruhe?
I think there's an understanding of Nachtruhe, but I don't think we've got rules as such. And I think people tend to respect their neighbours and not make too much noise at night. But I don't think there's a set of legal rules as such.
Yes, so Philip claims that they used to have parties all night and nobody was bothered.
I think probably Philip would have had to maybe warn his flat or his people living around that they were going to have a party and maybe invite them too.
Oh yeah, okay, that's a good idea. So, and then Carola suggests, what is her idea?
Does she say that perhaps next time they could go to the pub to have their celebrations, yeah?
Yes. And even Miriam agrees, although she didn't think they were so loud. Okay.
Now, was it Philip who suggested that they perhaps should answer the letter?
Yes, so Philip obviously doesn't know how to behave in a situation like this. He's never been in a situation like this, and he thinks or wonders whether we should write an answer. Okay, and it's not required.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to, but surely Miriam doesn't think that you need to.
Yeah, the eigentlich nicht. What's the eigentlich nicht?
Eigentlich means not really.
Right.
We can, but nah.
Okay.
In reality, no.
Right.
Yeah.
But Carola does agree that would be a good idea.
Yes, because Philip asks, müssen wir jetzt eine Antwort schreiben auf den Brief? Ja, do we have to write an answer to the brief? And no, you don't have to. Eigentlich nicht. ja. But Carola says, also ich finde schon. I think, yeah, it's an opinion.
Yeah.
Yes, we should.
And the schon there's that schon as in already, but it's almost got a kind of, I think we ought to, I think we should do that.
Yeah, so the schon is quite interesting because it means the opposite of no, we don't have to.
Could she have said doch there?
If she answered with only doch, then it would be quite categorical, like saying, Miriam, you are wrong.
Okay, so she would be contradicting Miriam there.
Aber ich finde schon is a bit softer, and schon says that I think you might be wrong there.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I get it. Okay. So she suggests that they could perhaps write a letter saying that they're sorry and that it won't happen again.
Ja,
basically.
vorkommen, ja, es kommt nicht mehr vor, it will never happen again.
Right. Yeah. She also suggests that they may go a step further and apologize to their neighbors.
So Miriam and Philip react to this suggestion and let's hear what they say.
Okay.
Echt jetzt?
Das finde ich extrem.
Wieso? Das zeigt guten Willen. Wir wollen ja mit den Nachbarn keinen Streit.
Na, also ich mach das nicht, aber wenn du das tun willst, kannst du ja.
Okay, du schreibst die Kärtchen, ich unterschreibe.
Super. Ihr werdet sehen, die Nachbarn werden sich sicher freuen und die Verwaltung wird nicht mehr sauer sein. Also, ich schreibe. Liebe Frau Müller, vielen Dank für Ihren Brief. Wir möchten uns für den Lärm entschuldigen und versichern, dass dies nicht mehr vorkommen wird. Natürlich werden wir uns auch darum kümmern, dass der Müll in Zukunft direkt zur Mülltonne gebracht und nicht im Treppenhaus gelagert wird. Mit freundlichen Grüßen, Carola, Philipp und Miriam.
Okay, so even if Miriam didn't want to be part of the letter, I think she's now part of the letter, isn't she?
Yes, absolutely.
I like it. Okay, so let's go back through this and have a little chat about it. So Miriam is not really in agreement with this whole idea of apologizing to the neighbors.
No, she's in disbelief. Echt jetzt is that's unbelievable. Yeah. And even Philip finds it a bit extreme.
Okay.
While Carola thinks it shows guten Willen.
Goodwill, yeah.
Yeah. She is all for harmony with the neighbors.
Sounds good. Okay.
So I think Philip agrees that he would put his name under it if Carola wrote a little card, whereas Miriam doesn't want to be part of any of this, but is now.
Against her will, perhaps.
Yes.
Okay, so what does Carola write in the letter?
So Carola writes to the Hausverwaltung, Frau Müller, who sent the letter to them, and thanks Frau Müller for her letter. She apologizes for the noise they made and assures Frau Müller that this will never happen again.
Mm-hmm.
And she also discusses the situation with the Müll and promises that it will no longer be deposited in the staircase, but taken to the container outside.
Okay. Sounds fair.
Yes.
Until she writes all three names in the letter.
And then she writes Carola, Philip, and adds Miriam.
Okay, a little sneaky of Carola, but perhaps it's good in the long run.
Yes, I think we see here very nicely cultural differences. And I'm not sure how I would react. I think I might write a letter to the Verwaltung. I'm not sure about the neighbors, to be honest. I think it depends on your mood at the moment and how much you like your neighbors.
Okay. Well, we don't know their neighbors. We don't know whether their neighbors are nice people or not. Hopefully they are. Hopefully they can all have a guten Willen and keinen Streit in their Wohngemeinschaft.
Yes.
Okay, so this has been our main episode for lesson 34, and we've gone through the dialogue in some detail. We've looked at some of the language included and tried to help you understand the meaning. But we also have our bonus audio episode, and in that episode we go through everything in detail. So go through every single line talking about the vocabulary and the language contained therein. And that's part of our bonus materials. Our bonus audio comes along with the video version of this lesson where you can see the words on the screen of your device and, of course, the lesson notes which explain everything in detail. You can find out more about all of that at coffeebreakgerman.com.
And don't forget to join the Coffee Break German conversation on social media. You can put your language skills to the test and build your cultural knowledge every week with our Facebook challenges. And join us on Twitter. We are Learn German, and see behind the scenes with the whole Coffee Break team on Instagram. Just search for Coffee Break Languages.
Of course, you can also search for Coffee Break Languages on YouTube, where we post language learning videos regularly, and that will help you learn your German, improve your German, and indeed tackle some other languages as well. That's it for this episode of Coffee Break German. Next time, we will be back with the next episode in our series, and they're going to be planning a birthday party next time. Until then, vielen Dank und tschüss.
Bis bald.
You have been listening to a production of the Coffee Break Academy for the Radiolingua Network. Copyright 2017 Radiolingua Limited. Recording copyright 2017 Radiolingua Limited. All rights reserved.